Welcome to the Football Show, sponsored by Indigo Communications. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Hugh McDonald are here with me. Great to be back with you. We had a day off yesterday as a mark of respect to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II and that state funeral. Here we are back talking football. We'll look back over the weekend Scottish Premiership, a wee glance at the English Premier League, and we'll hear from Steve Clarke in today's programme ahead of that big match against Ukraine in the Nations League tomorrow night at Hampden. So, lots to talk about. I've got to read out some messages as well, guys. And it just shows you the way fans look at things and our predictions. This one from Bruce Reid, who says, so Tam, he's talking of course about Cowan. You said on Sunday the Hearts players will all be tired from their Euro Conference League, and you got your answer yesterday. 3 points back to Tynecastle. And I think Bruce is a wee bit venomous in this one, so well done to you, Bruce. Peter McAleer says, just one word, karma. I'm off to the golf course to smile and play with my two Celtic mates. I wonder what top I'm going to wear. I think I'm going to wear the bluest one. So. And to be fair, Ruffy, if you're in a situation where over the weekend suddenly you manage to get 3 points back on your great rivals, you're well worthy of wearing a blue top. Yeah, you certainly are. I mean, everybody has been talking up Celtic quite rightly so, you know, and talking down Rangers for a wee bit, but I mean, I don't think Rangers even saw that coming, that wee gift they were given at the weekend to claw back 3 points. So I don't think any of us saw it. You know, I think if you look at all our predictions, we were confident that they were going to win. We were even confident, even though we put 5 or 6 different players in, that they were going to win. But it just shows you, if you're very, very well organised and you get your goals at the right time, good luck to St Mirren. Yeah, I fear for St Mirren today was one ex-St Mirren player said to me it could be 5 or 6, and there was a look of shock in his face when he was walking out of the stadium. We'll talk about that in a minute, although I have to show you this picture, Hugh. This was sent to us and I can't for the life of me remember the name of the gentleman who sent us the picture, but he was on his way, I think, to see his pals in his Porsche with the 5 stars and the badge on it. Now, needless to say, I'm looking at the background and I think it's got to be Spain or something, because
definitely not governed.
If you drive that in Glasgow, it's getting torched. You know, the insurance premium must be through the roof.
No hubcaps as well. Imagine it.
I mean, it looks the berries.
Oh, yeah,
but Ruffy, you're taking a chance if that was in Scotland, are you?
Oh, most definitely. You know, I don't. It's a convertible. Looks like a convertible as well. There've been no seats. There've been nothing.
Apparently, it wasn't.
None left.
Apparently, it wasn't a convertible. Well, one day he parked it.
You're right, Hugh. Anyway, great. Thank you for sending us that pic. It's always good. We love a bit of banter on the programme. This one, just before we start talking about the overall results, was, hi Peter and Ruffy, I wonder if you could give my nephew Ewan Harrison from South Queensferry a wee shout out, as he made his first ever Scotland squad for his age group. I'm in Australia, so I don't really get to show how proud I am of his achievements and his dedication to the game. Sadly for me, he plays for his dad's team, and his team is Hibs. I'm a Jambo, but I don't care. I'm just so happy for him. That's from Mike Harrison. So that's a great achievement, isn't it, Robbie?
That's fantastic. Yeah, you've got to start somewhere in your international career, and he's starting very young. So let's hope we can keep our eye on him, and he gets right up to the full squad.
When was this? When did they start in your day? Where did they go down? It would be schoolboy internationals and.
Never played schoolboy at all.
You were in a very good under-23 team, wasn't it? Or was
under 18.
Was it
under 18? We got to the semi-final of the UEFA tournament.
Big Joe, Graham Souness.
Graham Souness was in the team. Eric Carruthers, Ian Munro, Derek Renton, who's in my golf course. He was in as well. They had a very, very good side. Yeah, and Holland beat us 1-0 in the semi-final at Ibrox. It was 1-0, and their team was littered with Johnny Rep, Neeskens, Van der Kerkhoffs. I don't know what other ones were there, but
Johnny Rep's not a great name for you, Ruffy, is it?
No, it isn't. And funny enough, just a wee side story there. I was at a charity do then Friday night with Jimmy Nicholl and Mark Haitley, and we were up on the stage, obviously reminiscing about games, and the connection was we'd all played against Brazil, and obviously Jimmy swapped jerseys with Zico.
Mark played in the Maracanã
with Zico.
Yep.
And I just threw in, I could have had 2 of these jerseys. You know, one's all right, but I had two of them. So.
Yeah, you played against them twice,
We
didn't you?
played against them twice, yeah. And,
absolutely.
Never beat them.
And, of course, the other great thing about it, for everybody who's in awe of Ruffy, having played against Brazil twice, he still can't find the Zico jersey. So, there you are. Okay, thanks for all the messages. Let's get into the meat and bones of all this. I was at St Mirren against Celtic. First of all, can I just say St Mirren deserved their win. But the conduct of the Celtic fans was shameful, Hugh.
It was... It's going to go on and on. I mean, this is going to be repeated. It may be repeated at Hampden tomorrow. It was certainly. We know what happened at Tynecastle. We know what happened at Ibrox on Saturday, and then it happens at St Mirren Park as well. It's going to go on, and I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, a minute's applause doesn't solve anything because we've got ways around that.
Yeah.
So.
People were dreading it yesterday, Hugh. No. You could see everybody with that counting down the clock, waiting for whatever was going to unfold. And by the way, over and above that, listen, 24 hours prior to it, Ruffy, the Dundee United fans, again tarnished the image of their club.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying that. The people who are doing this are tarnishing their club. I mean, they think it's... Well, I suppose they do think it's a joke and a laugh getting away with that. But at the end of the day, the neutral people are looking at it going, what kind of club is that? You know, who's running that club? You know, what can nobody haul them in and do, what the good people would want them to do? But as you say, the minority are just spoiling it for every club.
But it's just, there's no way to police it or anything like that. Especially, I mean, you're trying to go for a minute's applause. And we all know what a minute's applause was about, because a minute's applause was because you couldn't have a minute's silence. It's simple as that. And that's why they're going for a minute's applause at Hampden tomorrow night as well. And there's no... I just think the whole thing's become a really tired old trope. I'm weary of it all.
Yeah, listen, Dundee United, Hibs.
Hearts?
Yep, Hearts as well. I mean, you can actually just understand how divided the country is on many issues, and you can see it.
Be divided. I mean, you can be. I'm not a monarchist by any stretch of my imagination. I'm a Republican. But I was at a game last Wednesday in Manchester, but I'm not taking the moral high ground here. I'm just saying the way I feel about these things. Because I was at a game in the German end of all places amongst fellow Dortmund fans, and you just say to yourself, well, not only respect the dead, but respect other people around about you. They're grieving that. What is it? Just keeping your mouth shut.
Yeah. No, I think the one thing that we have done in this programme and highlighted that I think needs to be highlighted, Hugh, and Ruffy and I were talking about it last week. Everybody's got the democratic right for their opinion on things.
Absolutely.
But I think we voiced only our opinion on the basis that out of decency for someone in a family who've lost their mum, and a woman who was the queen of this country for a long period of time, I was brought up to respect someone in a funeral, in a situation where they've passed away, and understand the feelings of a family. The other part of it, if you want to complain and democracy, fine, but a modicum of decency was all that everybody wanted.
Somebody said something very interesting to me today. He said that he's a Republican as well, and he said the time for real protest is the coronation. If you want to protest against the monarchy, do it at the coronation. Say, this is not my king. I don't want this.
Yeah.
When somebody dies, I don't think that's the appropriate place to make any kind of protest at all. A lot of people thought it was karma handed out, Ruffy. But on the day, he made 6 changes. Was he disrespectful? I did ask him after it if he maybe lost a little bit of the momentum and the rhythm of his side by making so many changes.
No, he's been doing it. He's been doing it against Ross County and the teams like that, and winning and getting away with it. So, I mean, every manager has a different view of what to do. My personal opinion is I'd rather win the game with my best team and then put the other 6 or 7 on when the game's done and dusted, But everybody has different theories and what they do. You know, Celtic have got a lot of big games coming up. I just thought with the international break, just get your full squad at a game.
I thought you might say to some of the guys who are going to play international football, right, you take a step, but somebody like Jota, you would expect to start, right away. And I thought it was incredible. It wasn't just the way that he changed it. I think he knows himself he got it wrong, Peter, as you say. I think he knows he got it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. We do like to read out your comments from time to time. Obviously, we'll try and read out as many of them as we possibly can, some as sensible as possible. Brian, who says, Peter, stop preaching. Brian, you get an opinion on this programme. You might not like it, but you get it. And it was on that particular incident, which we have offered our opinion on. If you don't like it, fine, that's the nature of the programme. We're not going to, as my old compatriot James Sanderson used to say, we're not going to shilly-shally around it.
And by the way, it's legitimate to have opinions on things and different opinions on things as well. I'm certainly not browbeating anybody into doing, what I believe to be right. We're just sitting here saying what we believe to be right.
The other aspect of it, quite a few people are saying, calm down, St Mirren had 2 chances in the game. They did have 2 chances in the game. They took them. The first one, I thought the defending was poor when he got in at the back post again to bullet the header home. The second one, Ruffy, it was just a catalogue of errors. Again, allowing a St Mirren player after the ball's been up in the air for about 10 seconds.
That's the kind of things that happen when you chop and change your team, because you've got players coming in who aren't playing beside each other regularly. It's not your settled back forward, it's not your settled midfield. If you have your same guys playing week in, week out, they know each other. But if you're chopping and changing, there's an element of uncertainty.
Especially when your big centre halves out as well.
Yeah.
Carter Vickers. I think the lad says St Mirren had 2 chances. I think St Mirren had 3 chances. I think O'Hara could have scored with a third header in the second half. And I just wonder how many chances that Celtic had.
Well, with all due respect, Hugh, some Celtic fans are on here and clearly weren't watching the match I was watching, because their first shot on target was like 66 minutes.
I thought the only really kind of blatant chance was late in the game. Remember, the ball went across the area and it reached the back post of a St Mirren defender and nobody closed it. No Celtic player had went in it. I thought that was the best chance that Celtic had in the game.
Yeah.
You've got to look at Carson, the goalkeeper. Usually when you get results like that against Celtic Rangers, who's the man of the match? Always the goalkeeper. Wasn't he the St Mirren goalkeeper? And how many saves did he make?
Well,
saves.
Honestly, that first shot on target was in the third quarter of the game.
It was straight down his throat, wasn't it?
Exactly. It wasn't anything you think, that was a wonder save. So you're absolutely right. Listen, let's not take anything away from St Mirren.
Well, I think the way the St Mirren is the way, if you are going to beat Celtic, right, it was a perfect way to beat them. Now, 9 times, Stephen Robinson said, we're going to play what they all call now a low block. We're not going to play through midfield, because if they nick the ball off us in midfield, we'll be immediately in the back foot. We're going to play steady at the back, track runs, shove players wide, and we're going to hit our front 2 men.
Yeah.
And if we hit our front 2 men from defence, we're betting on them holding up and giving Jens and Welsh some problems, and we'll take anything we get in that final third, where it's corners, throw-ins, free kicks, and we've got a chance, and it worked perfectly.
And the second one was a long throw-in, you're right. Fair play to St Mirren. Obviously, there was a lot of adulation towards the St Mirren manager when he came in, but Stephen Robinson, I think, was trying to keep a lid on the excitement of it all.
I'm not too bothered about the credit, to be honest with you. Listen, I know how good a performance it was, and in that dressing room, there's been a lot of credit given to players, but it's a performance, and it's a result, and we have to continue to build that, as I say. When you start thinking you're a good team, football is a way of giving you your comeuppance. So we've beat a lot of teams, and Hibs weren't very good on the day, Dundee United weren't very good on the day, Ross County weren't very good. So we'll just quietly go under the radar. We're quite happy with that. As I say, we've got no egos at the club and no egos in the dressing room.
Yeah, no egos at the club, no egos in the dressing room. I'll tell you how mental Scottish football is, and UK football. But 3 or 4 weeks ago, they were suggesting he was maybe for the chop.
Yeah, before he got it, was it 3 wins he had or something like that? Before that, as managers do, they come under pressure But certainly he came out and he said, look, wait till I get all my players in, wait till I get my final, and then judge me. And he went on that wee run, and that result of the weekend will just keep him going.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou, not one for making excuses.
Yeah, look, I mean, they weren't great goals, but I think they're just reflective of the whole game. We didn't really create as much as we usually do either, so it kind of works both ways. Like I said, there's not one aspect that we kind of go, well, okay, we performed at the levels required. You know, I just thought all around we just weren't anywhere near, you know, the football team we want to be. And when that happens, like any other football team in the world, you get punished.
Yeah, sometimes if you're a fringe player, you want to try and alert the manager to your qualities. I don't think too many of them posted any great attempt.
The only person that came in and did all right was Ralston, and even his crossing was wayward, but you could see what he was going about. He was combative, he was trying to get up the park, he was trying to overlap. You could say pass marks for him. Moy had to be hooked. There's question marks through the team in that day as well. Not so much even the fringe players that didn't quite. Welsh looked suspect, didn't he?
Yeah.
Under a bombardment. And there's question marks over, you know, is Kyogo at the moment fully on the boil, Peter?
Well, that's the other thing about it. I mean, I'm looking at him and thinking to myself, does he look as dangerous as he did when he first came in? If you were putting a ball into the 6-yard area, you were thinking he's going to be there. He's not there at the moment. So, listen, it's a defeat. They take it on the chin. And we move on the programme to Rangers against Dundee United, because quite simply Rangers 24 hours prior to it got 3 points, and again, Ruffy, you can't seem to play. It's only in the central belt of Glasgow are we in a situation where I don't think the Rangers fans were too happy at the performance in a 2-1 win over Dundee United.
No, at 2-0, the game looked done and dusted. You know, Dundee United kept fighting away, a couple of penalty claims that were a bit soft. But they got the goal, made it a very, very nervous end to the game. You know, Rangers still created chances, and Dundee United goalkeeper did some good saves. But no, I think the Rangers supporters want to start winning 3 and 4-0 again, as you usually do at home. I think that's a disappointing for them, but they've won the game, and in light of the St Mirren score, they'll be more than happy with the weekend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has just mentioned after the game, obviously he's looking for his team to have that killer instinct. It should have been more comfortable than we had today. I think we started really well, creating a lot of chances, scored an early goal, then 2-0 in the second half. We have to learn to make sure we kill games earlier in the match and don't make it close to having a draw. That is something we have to do better. Last year we had a couple of games where we didn't kill the game early and it cost us points in the end. Fortunately today it didn't cost us any points, and I think that's the problem. Once you've got 50,000 fans there and they're getting ever so slightly nervy.
Yep, but it shows the way the turns. I mean, after, you know, when the next round of fixtures come, Rangers could be top of the league before Celtic play Motherwell.
Yeah.
Whereas if Celtic had beaten St Mirren as expected on Sunday, Rangers would have been going to Tynecastle 5 points down with an inferior goal difference. You know, so it's funny how the narrative changes just on the back of those results. Yes, Rangers are still, being criticised by their support, and they were heavily criticised in some of the message boards on Saturday night. But that was 3 points, and it's proved to be an excellent 3 points.
Yeah, Čolak scoring the goals. I mean, we all know the difference with Morelos in the side, Ruffy. He offers something different to Čolak, but you've got to give the boy some credit because he's scoring the goals.
Yeah, and inside that 18-yard box, he's pretty lethal. You know, he's one of these strikers that can read where the ball is going when they get wide. You know, he seems to check. He can check back and anticipate what's going to happen before anybody else. Yeah, you're right. You know, he's maybe not as mobile as Morelos, but certainly in the box, he's scoring goals, and that's when you send a centre forward, you just want him to hit the back of the net.
Yeah. If anything, though, the Liam Smith goal makes it ever so slightly edgy, but you've got to see it out. There are some games where it's going to be nervy. I just wonder, though, there was prior to the game against St Mirren, a lot of people were talking about, you know, Celtic as the Invincibles going through the entire season. Suddenly the Rangers fans have got a lift. You know, they had a little bit of a rocky patch, and there was a few disgruntled fans, and we'll talk about John Bennett's comments in a moment, but there's a few disgruntled fans. But this is, again, just calmed it a wee bit.
That's what I'm saying. That result has switched the whole, the whole perspective and context. The result I'm talking about at St Mirren Park, because it's changed the whole context. Now, Rangers fans can look at it and say, well, within touching distance, we're within a win over Celtic to go back top of the league. Celtic's momentum, which we were looking at, and certainly in domestic terms, we were looking at, 9s and 4s. And, it was very, very comfortable. It was hardly a game where Celtic had to take a breath. And even the Rangers game, was a 4. And then suddenly, bang, it hits the buffers. So it'll be interesting I think the great thing about Celtic and Rangers is the reaction on a defeat. It's this mushroom cloud, isn't it? Everybody investigates evidence forensic. Oh, he has to do this, and the manager messed up. You'll have to drop that, and maybe the bench isn't strong enough. What they've just got to do is go back to what they do, and go on the run again.
Yeah, the one other problem that I think is going to be a recurring theme that Rangers fans have prompted, obviously the Vice Chairman, John Bennett, to come out in an interview on Rangers television.
Very interesting.
Which he came out and released on YouTube as well for everybody to cast their eye over. Reading the whole content of it, he didn't say anything.
No, but the thing about it was he was trying to address this growing feeling in the Rangers support that they've salted away money for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they haven't spent, particularly the Champions League money coming in. And he's basically said, well, the Champions League money's not 40 million. But I thought what was really interesting is his lines was saying how much trouble Rangers were in, sleepless nights during COVID, when everybody's saying, oh, it's fine, he was saying, well, you know what, it wasn't fine, it was tough, worrying times. And I think the Rangers board have taken a breath individually and collectively and said, do you know what, we just can't keep throwing money out. We just can't keep throwing money out. We've got to stabilise this club. We've got to look at, he was talking about player transfers being that's what they want to do, but he's talking about Patterson and Bassey, obviously, getting your own players and selling them for big fees, and then just reinvesting at a much lower level. Now, when you're second in the league and you've been beaten comfortably twice in the Champions League, that doesn't go down well with supporters.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. But he didn't say in, Peter, that we didn't know.
No, exactly, because at the end of the day, Ruffy, we talk about this, ad nauseum on this programme. You can only deal with the facts that are put there in front of you. And quite simply, 9 consecutive years of losses tells its own story. No bank would give them credit, so they had to look to wealthy Rangers fans to actually invest money at a time when it was difficult. And then eventually, everybody has to get paid back. Everybody has to be, thank you very much for your contribution. Here's your money back, because you didn't take any interest on it. Secondary to that as well, you look and as soon as he came out and said, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came out and said there's not millions in the bank. That was another point that everybody was going, because Rangers fans look at it roughly and think, well, wait a minute, it is 40 million. Get signing the players. And people have a short memory. Nobody's got that. It's almost like a goldfish going round in a bowl. You've had the administration, you've had the liquidation, forget it, you've got 40 million, start spending it again. It's the same. Fans have got short memories.
Yeah, well, the proof in the pudding will be when the accounts are published, because it has to be in there where the money's went and what money's come in and what's went out. So the Rangers supporters will get an eyeful of when that is. I don't know when it gets published or what month it is or anything like that. But on the other side, you have to give whoever was in charge of Rangers a wee bit of credit for putting everything into getting in the Champions League, because that's what they said. We're going to do Champions League. Now, it'll be interesting to see how they got there and how they got it. But at the end of the day, they're in it. So as long as the finances, when they're published, are reasonable, then good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the unfortunate thing about when you suddenly get Giovanni Van Bronckhorst with all the credit due, and then 2 weeks later, 2 really bad defeats, and suddenly they're thinking, is he the man for the job?
Well, there was a great Walter Smith, as you know, always said that. He would, you congratulate him on a victory or something like that, and he would say, I'm 2 bad results away from the sack.
Yeah.
That was his great line all the time. He knew the reality of what they are, and you talk to other Celtic and Rangers managers, and we've known a few down the years, and I know you know some much better than me, and if you talk to them about their tenures at Parkhead or Ibrox, they tell you it's just the pressure's like nothing they've seen at other clubs, because it's relentless winning. You talk to any Celtic or Rangers player that goes down to England, and the first thing they'll tell you, whether they went to Aston Villa, wherever they went, it's amazing. But see if we draw, everybody in the dressing room is giving high five because it's a point away from home.
Yeah,
I'd go a stage further. You've got to win the training games as well.
Yeah,
that's the mentality of Rangers and Celtic, even in training.
Yeah, Walter was great at summing things like that up. But the other week that I was in the company, as you were, of Gordon Strachan, and he had a great line which I thought gave a great insight into becoming a Rangers or Celtic manager. What do you think the best tactics are when you get into the job, to avoid that kind of criticism? He went, win, and then win again. That's the tactic. Just keep winning.
And by the way, even that didn't deflect criticism. We won three consecutive titles he won, and people were still having a go. two knockout stages of the Champions League as well.
Yeah, and they still remember Art Media Bratislava, which I think still sticks in his head. I have to be fair, honest with you. Okay, Ruffy, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Hibs 3, Aberdeen 1, and Jim Goodwin, who's not known for kind of a holding back. This is what Jim had to say on Ryan Porteous winning a penalty. I don't know how many times the boy Porteous can get away with that kind of stuff. People will say he's good at it and he's clever, but it's blatant cheating as far as I'm concerned, and it has cost my team points. I told Porteous to his face after the game what I thought of him. I don't care what he reads in the paper on Sunday and Monday. He knows. He's laughing about it. He celebrates winning penalty kicks like he's scored a goal. Okay, 3-1. I looked at that. I was very surprised by the result. Watched the highlights of the game, and of course, maybe flattered Hibs, the 3-1 scoreline, to be perfectly honest with you, Ruffy, with Scales being sent off. Let's deal with his issue. Was it as blatant as he's making out as cheating with Ryan Porteous in the penalty?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was initially when I saw it the first time, as we've got a chance to see it twice. The first time I went, it's a penalty, because the boy Scales was all over him, and then obviously when we analyse it and we see it again, both of them were at it, both of them were pulling each other. It was a tussle and they came together, but I don't think he dived or anything or threw himself to the ground. There was contact, and if you look at the analysing it, Port really started it by pulling his jersey, and then the two of them were at it. I don't think it was a sending off. I mean, it was a double booking, but it was a sending off. So no, I think Jim's just went a wee bit too far, but it did turn the game. I thought Aberdeen were playing well up until then. Going down to 10 men, Hibs just took charge of the game, and it was just chance after chance.
Yeah, I think he might find himself in trouble for the comment.
I think so. I think if you say blatant cheating, you're entitled. That's. I think you probably can be construed as bringing the game into disrepute. I'm kind of smiling when he says Porteous was laughing in that, because you can just see big Porteous coming off and just going.
But is it a crime?
No, I'm saying. I'm just being Porteous. I can just see him walking off the park in my mind's eye, just going, we've won, hard lines, suck it up, but I think, it'll be one of those ones where you think that somebody in the SFA will be having a close look at that comment.
He is a boy, Ruffy, that, I've got no qualms, because, that's the way I like to play football, annoying people. And he does annoy people. I don't think he'll get any Christmas cards from Rangers fans. They can't stand him. But if you win a penalty, or you score a goal, or you have a little noise up and somebody takes the bait, if you want to laugh about it, Scott Brown made a career out of it.
Yeah, no, I didn't see him. I didn't see him laughing at the time when the penalty was given.
Yeah.
He just sort of threw his hands up, But I can't remember any other occasions when he's done that. I don't know where Jim Goodwin's coming from, unless he deliberately knows he'd done it. We all know he's had a late tackle now and again, but I've never seen him, trying to get a penalty in the box. So it must be something that Jim Goodwin's seen, and had it in his memory. But I don't think it was a dive. I think the referee, if he had a VAR, he wouldn't have given the penalty, and he wouldn't have sent the boy off.
You don't think it was a penalty?
No, I think the two of them were at it.
Yeah.
No, that's that's probably fair.
Yeah,
that's probably fair.
Okay, so I think a wee bit of sympathy for Aberdeen, because I thought, you know, the momentum that he's trying to get going there, I thought they were certainly the better side at that point. But Hibs took full advantage of it. Well done to Josh Campbell, got a couple of goals. And I think it was fairly indicative of the fact that you lose one of your central defenders. His second goal, which was eventually Hibs' third, he was 3 yards out with nobody marking him.
Exactly. But I mean, it was a very important result for Hibs as well. You know, gets them back on track again. And another, I think some of the Jim's frustration will be, it was another really, you know, just when they thought they were getting back onto some kind of momentum. I know how much he was looking forward to the Rangers game at Pittodrie, and then taking it on it, going to Hibs. He's a very competitive guy. You'll just be you know, hugely disappointed at the result.
Yeah, absolutely. Motherwell 0, Hearts 3. I mean, our reporter Kerry was at the game. How did Motherwell lose?
I know. I mean, sometimes you play in these games and you're shaking your head after it. You know, particularly when it's 3-0. You know, you would think you take your chance. One of these games, you take your chances. You do get something out of the game. But if you don't take your chances at this level, we've seen it at European level. You know, if you don't take your chances, anything can happen after that. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy result.
Yeah, a good few days for Hearts, Peter, because there's a few eyebrows getting raised. They weren't playing well domestically. You'd taken a Tonkin in Europe, and they come back to go away in Europe, a good result, and then on the back of that result, re-establish their position as the third best force in Scotland. So it was a good few days.
Yeah, and of course the manager Robbie Nielsen was happy to praise his 2 goal scorers.
3 goals made in their United, you know, so it was good to see them. We've got a good rapport between the 2 guys, like Shanks and Alan have come in and really taken to the group. Players like them, and you know, they do great for us. You know, I like their pathway of, you know, coming from, you know, Championship, going up to Premier League, doing well, and then coming to us. You know, and it shows that's a great pathway for players in Scotland. Yeah,
Shankland's chipping in with the goals. Maybe people thought he might chip in with a few more goals, but Forrest, I like him. I think he's got a trick or two.
Forrest has really come on, hasn't he? I mean, there's always been question marks over him, even at Livingston. People saying, but he's really come on strong, and I was pleased for him. But I think the thing with Shankland is as well, people can automatically think, you know, hit the ground running, score a barrel load of goals, you know, the Erling Haaland effect. But players sometimes need time to settle in. Shankland will be fine for Hearts. Shankland will be more than fine for Hearts. I'm very confident in that.
Yeah, Tam Cowan, this is the one from Thomas McDougall. He says Tam Cowan will still be crying his eyes out. If anything, Tam will be crying his eyes out, but the only reason for that, Ruffy, is if you're going to take your daughter to her first home Motherwell game, you've got the kit, you've got her in the scarf and everything. The last thing you want is, and I don't know about you, but there are great similarities between Tam's life, you know, with having a lovely daughter like myself. You take them to their first ever game, you know, and they get tonked 3-0. And I have to say, Ruffy, I've done the same in the last month. Yeah. Took my daughter to her first Champions League game, and they get battered 3-0.
Yeah. And not only Tam has to sort of take in the defeat, but he can't have a pint after it. No. You know, he can't go with his pals that he keeps telling us about down to the local pub. He'd have to take his wee daughter for something to eat or something, and try and humour her for the next game. Absolutely.
And the good news is, if you want to know what they had for eating on that night, it's on Instagram, because Tam's Instagram is just 400 pictures of meals. you know exactly what he's having every night. So listen, he would have been upset at it all. As far as Motherwell are concerned, they played some really good football. I think they will take a few scalps this season, Motherwell, especially when you look at that front line. Matt Penny reckons they didn't get what they deserved.
Honestly, I think that's the most frustrating game I've ever been involved in, never mind played. But again, football's about taking your chances and keeping the ball out of the back of your net. So, from a distance, it doesn't look great, but anybody that's been to the game today knows that we were the better team, we deserve to win. Another day we take them chances, and it's a different story altogether.
I think Matt Penny could sign for Partick Thistle, Ruffy. He just said we were the better team, we deserved to win, and how we lost just totally escapes us. Colley should sign him.
Yeah,
that's your narrative.
Well, you only can tell it as you see it. You know, you can I can feel his hurt.
Yeah, he's pain.
But when you're sitting top of the league, it just kills it a wee bit. You know.
Yeah.
Just move on, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Thistle. We'll talk about Thistle in a minute, Ruffy. Can I just say that the boy Montano for Livingston is on a nice wee run at the moment. That's another goal, a winning goal against Kilmarnock.
Yep, and Livingston are just doing what they're doing last season. Same template, playing better football than people give them credit for, have better players that people give them credit for. And dare I say it, have a better manager than people have given credit for as well.
Yeah, we don't need to convince us. We thoroughly enjoyed his company in here.
Yeah, absolutely. So another good on them. Another side, I think Kilmarnock, you know, there's going to be a tough, long winter for Kilmarnock, I feel.
Yeah, it's that you look at you with your look of there's a long way to go, Ruffy. I know you've tipped Kelly for the drop.
No, I think they'll be in the bottom two. You know, I don't know if they'll survive it, but they'll be down there. I agree with you. I think they'll be down there the most of the season. It'll be interesting when January comes. They've got very, very good owners in Billy Bowie. You know, I'm sure Billy, if they're in trouble, will help Derek out. You know, that's the kind of guy he is. So. No, I think it just remains to be seen what other clubs are down there as well.
Yeah, and it was an absolute stick-on that St Johnstone and Ross County would be a 0-0, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't that much. I think I went one each. But a draw looked... I think they'll both be happy that they've kid on their not, but a point in a tough fixture is not a bad result.
Yeah, and a couple of the clubs will be more than happy for the break to get some of their injured players back as well. But here's a quick summary of how it all panned out in the Scottish Premiership. There's the results for you. Some you'll be happy with, some not. Hibs happy with a 3-1 win. Aberdeen fans raging, as well as the manager Jim Goodwin. Christian Montano got the goal and the all-important one. Rangers, Antonio Cholak, I think, again, his record stands up for a new signing, and what he's doing for Rangers. Scored a couple against Dundee United, albeit it was a bit nervy. No goals between St Johnstone and Ross County, and a weekend where St Mirren fans can just wallow in the fact that they got that great win against Celtic, and their fans certainly on the day, speaking to a lot of them heading out of St Mirren Park, were well happy with the scoreline. And of course Hearts with all 3 points. It's been not a bad return with a European win for them as well, so congratulations to them. As far as the predictor is concerned, Ruffy, it's getting a bit tight down there. I think if Hugh got his finger out of his backside and started predicting Rangers to win a few games, he might move up that table. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's beginning to grasp, you know, the pain of being down there, you know. And
I'm very confident.
You've got to be.
I'm very confident. Yeah. There was an American 800 metre runner. Do you ever remember him?
Yes.
Whittle or Whittle, was it?
Yes.
He used to wear a baseball cap.
Yes.
And he used to be last. Till just to the last bend, right, and then he would come up.
That's on YouTube. Not YouTube, but YouTube.
I'll be on YouTube now.
Yeah, it's
and the tube. Remember, the tube is always in YouTube.
If you get a chance to see that on YouTube, it's absolutely fantastic. An American, Dave Whittle, I think is his name.
He used to do all the time. That was his last. That was his. So I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to be. I'm very confident.
All Ruffy and I want is for Alison to hit the bottom of the table, and then
smirking. She's so when she was up the top there, it was unbearable.
Yeah,
was it?
She used to come in, you know.
Yeah, that kind of a condescending look which Ruffy has had so many times in his life.
I don't think that had anything to do with being at the top. Ruffy, I was just being condescending. Yeah.
So there it is in the predictor. How did you fare over the weekend? Did you predict St Mirren to defeat Celtic? If you did, fair play to you. Thank you to so many of you who are posting your messages. Gregor Stevens says, Wattle. Was it Wattle?
Wattle, might be Wattle.
It might have been Gregor. You might be right on that. Dave Wattle is what Gregor says, not Whittle.
Right.
Whittle, Wattle, tomato. The point here, Gregor, is he always ended up finishing first. He was sensational at it. I'm not sure you're going to finish first, Hugh, but we'll wait and see. we're going to turn our attention to Scotland just shortly. Hit the subscribe button if you get a chance on the YouTube channel. As you can see, our figures going up and up on YouTube, on our social media channels, on Facebook and Twitter. And a lot of people, Ruffy, are really looking forward to the app now, because quite simply, if you go on the PLZ Soccer app, you can watch the show live on your phone, on your tablet, on your PC, as well as sticking it. A lot of people, Ruffy, as you well know, some of your mates, stick the programme up on the telly on YouTube and sit in their man caves and watch it either live or later on at night.
Yeah, we had some people at the Partick Thistle game in the hospitality from Malaysia, Thistle supporters, and they watch the show every day.
Well, fantastic.
So it just shows you, that the availability and keeping them all in contact to what's happening.
And did you deliver the usual line when they said they were in Malaysia? Did you deliver the usual line? Is there a flat big enough for me, Hugh, Tam and yourself to get over there?
Do a Malaysia show?
I've already been,
Yeah.
So,
it's all about you.
Yeah, so
thanks for that, Ruffy.
It's used up, I'm afraid.
Okay, Scotland. Scotland. He really is a selfish so isn't he? Scotland against Ukraine. One of 3 games coming up, 2 of them at home. Republic of Ireland on the horizon as well. There's going to be a minute's applause for the Queen before this game against Ukraine on Wednesday. Is there anything coming into the equation there, or nationalism, or will the respect be resounding right across Hampden?
Well, I think you have to try and work out what kind of support's going to be there. I think we all agree that most of the Scotland support comes from sort of northern regions, like Aberdeen, Inverness. I think Rangers and Celtic supporters, not them all, tend to support their team rather than the national side. So I don't think it'll be as bad as what it's been at some. I hope it isn't as bad as some of the other ones. I remember it happening at a Scotland Northern Ireland game, and it was just not tasteful at all. So we really hope that the applause takes any problems out of the equation.
I just don't know.
Can't guess this one, Hugh.
I can't guess. Again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's just the whole tedium of the whole thing, of being forced to sort of sit and watch or hear, if this has been observed properly or not, and the outrage and then the defence and the way it all spins round. You just say to yourself, my goodness, do I have to go through, this palaver of outrage and, rebuttal and then outrage again and rebuttal.
It becomes a bit tedious, doesn't it?
Absolutely tedious. And I see why the SFA, by the way, had to do it, because it is, people say, well, the Queen has been laid to rest and the mourning period's over. But I suppose if the SFA would have been, they'd have been pilloried and vilified if in their first game after the death of the Queen they didn't have this. So it's just one of these political story. It's all political now. It's all there's nothing really to do with not only football but any kind of decency or how we go forward.
Yeah. Okay. As far as the team news is concerned, Robbie McCrory's been drafted in. They've lost John McLaughlin, Grant Hanley, and Jacob Brown. So there was 25 to start with. Lost 3 and added 1.
Yeah, well, I don't think Grant Hanley might have taken part at some part of the game, but I don't think the other 2 would have, So it's the same old, we're all going to be starting debating if it's going to go 3 at the back or where's he going to play Tierney. But I think it's a running-of-the-mill team. When the 11 goes out there, I think we all could pick maybe 9 or 10. Yeah,
our reporter Kerry Pollock was out there at the Orium this afternoon.
Here at Scotland's Performance Centre in Edinburgh is where the national team have been preparing ahead of their Nations League game against Ukraine. The manager Steve Clarke says the last time the 2 countries met was very unique, but is hoping that Scotland can get back to the levels he knows they can be at.
That game in June was pretty unique, the circumstances leading into it and whatever, so maybe slightly different, but still a big game for 2 teams that want to top the section. I think the Scottish public, the Scottish fans now all know that Ukraine are a very good team. I'm sure they'll play to the same level, but what I'm looking for from our team is that we get back to the level that we can be, and then we'll see what the result is.
Yeah, it was a unique situation, Hugh, the last time the 2 sides met. There was a lot of emotion involved in it. But once the referee blew his whistle, it was just down to technical ability, and I thought Ukraine just outclassed Scotland.
The whole problem with Scotland was that you didn't quite get what Scotland were at in the game. You didn't know if they were going to go full out press in Ukraine, or sometimes pressing and sometimes not. And Ukraine just very quickly took a grip of the game and never really lost it. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of moments where, you sort of, if Scotland score here, we're back in with a chance and we've got a sniff, etc., and then we did score, etc. But I thought it was a really powerful performance from Ukraine, marked with some excellent individual performances, and Jenko in particular. So I thought it was a quite sobering night that night.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting in the press box and looked at them technically. I thought they were better. I thought they looked comfortable in the majority of the game, Ruffy. I just wonder now, having spoken to him last week as well, I think the biggest conundrum from his perspective is how to alter the way they play that can suddenly change the outcome. I think he has to come up with a different tactic than the one he deployed the last time out, because they're technically better than us.
Yeah, they are. Most of the teams that come and play us are technically better, so we need to have a different format. I keep saying the old style gung-ho, but that doesn't work anymore, because as soon as you lose possession, you're under pressure. So it'd be interesting to see who he plays in the wide areas. I think the modern game now, it's the wide area boys that are putting the balls into the box, and if you get quality strikers in there, they generally get on the end of them. You saw Rangers and Celtic do it in the last couple of weeks, so it'd be interesting to see who he plays there.
I think as well, very critical of Scotland's performance against Ukraine. It's just a flat night and a poor night. But what we've got to remember, Scotland's performance against Denmark, in my view, a superior team to Ukraine, and superior technically to Ukraine, was a terrific performance, and a terrific result. People say, Denmark had already qualified. I don't quite buy that. I think, so really, it's not like he's got to rip up and throw it up in the air. He's just got to get back to what they did well. I thought they gave Ukraine too much space at certain points of time. I don't think he'll go back to a 4, for example. I think he'll keep his 3.
We've looked at a possible. I mean, it could change, but here's a predicted 11, Hugh. What do you make of it then, if you're talking about him changing? Gordon in goal, Tierney, McKenna, McTominay. I'm not sure Tierney will be on that right-hand side of it, but nevertheless, Patterson, McGregor, Gilmour and Taylor, McGinn, Christie and Adams.
Right. You just wonder if
I mean, McTominay will be on the other side of that.
Yeah, he'll be. That would seem to me to be a very possible lineup. Yes, I think Patterson, for example, with his performances of late, has now, the only question mark was over him was playing club level. He wasn't playing enough. Now he is, and not only is he playing, he's playing very well. Taylor in wide left is more than a possibility. He's played very well for Celtic there. I'm just wondering, does he tuck in a wide left player because he's got Tierney marauding down there and maybe bolster in the midfield with another ball player? I don't know. Maybe even like playing Ryan Fraser. He's probably brought him back for a reason.
Yeah.
You would think if he's coming into the squad, he'll want to play him.
And he's got options from the bench. Stuart Armstrong's there as well. I mean, that's a good point about I think this is the beginning of Nathan Patterson, barring injury, could well go on to 20, 30, 40, 50 caps. Playing regularly at that level, and he is a boy who's got a great engine on him as well. Taylor, I think, deserves credit, Ruffy, because many have signalled his demise at Celtic, but he is holding down that place and playing really good football. If only we had a situation where you have Tierney and Robertson as well, that may well be at the expense of Taylor, but it's not a bad team. I agree with you. I think it's what we do, the tactic that we deploy against the Ukraine to somehow get a different outcome.
Yeah, I think we've got to do what most of the good teams do. They control the game in midfield. There's always one person who comes to Hampden and just strolls a bit like Modric, or and everybody's got a player like that.
Yeah.
We need to identify. If it's Billy Gilmour, let it be Billy Gilmour. Let him control the game. Letting people play around a bit.
Is he capable of doing that, Ruffy?
Well, I think
I've
it needs
Peggy
more
on
game.
here saying Gilmour, he's overrated.
Yeah, well, I just think I think we saw him playing well against England, and there's been a couple of ones, but maybe he just needs more games, you know, at club level and at international level. But he's certainly got a lot of ability. I mean, I'm not just saying him. I just think the whole midfield, McGinn, McGregor, whoever's all in there. Let us control the game instead of when we've not got the ball, we're running all over the place trying to get it back.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, a little bit hopeful to try and control the game against the Ukraine. I think, you know, if anything, yes, by all means press them, by all means, you know, as they say, get in about them, but I think we have to be clever in the way we're doing it and keep it tight.
I think the thing about it, I mean, I don't look into Steve Clarke's mind, but I think Steve Clarke, after the game, was slightly surprised at the way that Scotland just didn't quite press as urgently, as aggressively, and I think you'll see more of that tomorrow night. I think that'll be the key to it. I mean, I know the Ukraine game, I sat and watched it in the pub with a lot of young boys, my son's pals, you know, and the deflation was awful.
Yeah.
You know, it was really, deflation was awful. So when you get a result like that, everybody's heads goes down, quite properly so. But as I say again, if you look at Scotland in the whole, there's been good results lately. We've got a decent team. We know there's areas in the team that are not quite right. But I always go back to that result against Denmark. That gives us hope to what we can actually do when we're really at it and everything works well.
Well, at least we've got a good goalkeeper, and Craig Gordon seems to be, again, he produced a couple of brilliant saves against Motherwell at the weekend, and he's mentioned that, you know, producing these saves, that's the motivation to make sure he's still involved at international level.
Yeah, I love every time I manage to go out there and play for Scotland. It's a huge honour. And it motivates me to keep going, to keep playing well for Hearts, to be able to be involved in that. I don't want to give the place up that easily. I've fought so hard over all the years with different goalkeepers to earn as many caps as I have, and I want to keep going. And
I mean, it's just unbelievable, Ruffy. It's not as if it's one great save every 2 or 3 weeks. It's 2 great saves every game.
Yeah, even against Riga. He had a save that probably won the game, and that's what kind of goalkeeper he is. He's making these saves, and now he's doing it at international level. I said it before, if he hadn't picked up all these injuries that he had, he would beat Jim Leighton's cap toe, which I think is 92 or something like that.
He's thrashed you, though.
Is that because he's the best goalkeeper that Scotland have ever had?
Yeah, I think he's got to be up there now. I really do. I think he has.
Better than Ruffy?
Oh, much better than me, yeah.
What?
Better than you as a goalkeeper?
Oh yeah, much better than me.
Yeah.
He's got more modern technique now and more, you know.
I think his longevity, his commitment, his saves. I think he's certainly up there. He's the.
It's an interesting one. I never really thought about it. I mean, I thought.
Well, it's between. You look at it between him, Gorham, and Leighton.
I would say that's the 3.
You know.
Yeah, I would say that was 3. I just feel like Gorham had one season. I think it was 92, 93, where he was just unbeatable. He was unbeatable in Europe.
Yeah. Is the criteria one season, or is it longevity?
I think you can argue both. You can say, you know, certain performances on longevity. Gordon kills it.
Yeah,
he kills it. It's a good argument to have because
great pub argument, isn't it?
Because listen, if anybody said 1 out of the 3, I wouldn't really. I could not come up with a really strong argument against any of them. But I'd throw Ruffy in there. 3 World Cups.
Yeah, absolutely. Champion Jets, by the way, becoming unbearable.
Quite happy to be 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the history of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless there's somebody jumped in front of me, is there?
No, you should feel proud of that, Ruffy.
No, you're okay.
You're okay. Yeah. No, you're in 3rd place. Although you're getting it battered here from Gary. Gary, who's just said, when is Ruffy going to bring in the gloves that he promised everybody? No, do you want me to tell you something, Ruffy?
I've got them in the car.
Listen, we know you've got them in the car, but bring them in and then
we can,
and sign them so we can give them away.
I will.
It's called a competition, Ruffy. Okay. And on here, by the way, most of the people who have subscribed and most of the people who post messages on here, apart from the odd screwball that we try and ban, but most of them have got elephant memory.
Right.
If you say you're going to do something, do something, you know.
Bring them in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Signed. Magic.
Definitely.
Gary, we've done that. Gary also wants to get involved in the predictor. Gary, we're working hard at it at the moment, I promise you.
That would be good, wouldn't it, if they get a wee prize?
Just heap pressure on me, Hugh, will you?
We could get the punters in, get a prize.
Well, they want to. We're trying to get it sorted for the app. so that people can be on the predictor.
That'd be good.
And then the punters would obviously
that'd be
face
a real humiliation for me, not just beat by every pundit, but beaten by everybody that watches the show.
Exactly. But the other thing about it as well is I wonder how many punters would continually take their team to win every week and then compromise. Can't you actually say against your team, I think they're going to lose today, and be willing to take it on the chin? Interesting. English Premier League results, here they are. Some games didn't get off the ground, obviously, postponed Chelsea-Liverpool, but Aston Villa, boy, did he need that win against Southampton. Nottingham Forest lost to Fulham 3-2. Man City, Haaland just keeps on scoring goals. Nothing there for Brighton. Crystal Palace postponed. Newcastle 1-1 with Bournemouth, and then Tottenham increasing the pressure on Brendan Rodgers, 6-2 tonking. Arsenal just at this moment are flying high with that win over Brentford, and then Everton, Frank Lampard getting a crucial win. That was another big one, wasn't it, Hugh?
Yeah, and I was down in Manchester last Wednesday, the Champions League game against Dortmund, and Haaland is going to be, I mean, I said it last year when City signed him, they just bought guaranteed goals, and I think he could be the man this season that takes him over the line in the Champions League.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that. Hugh Scott says, Peter, how long do you think Brendan has left at Leicester? As long as they work out how much money he wants for the compensation. The source, who sometimes can be intelligent, sometimes he can be a little bit vindictive, and annoys up, says, Ruffy was lucky to play with some of the most talented players of a generation. They threw the dummy out the pram when they were beaten. Yes.
Did we?
So there you are. Didn't celebrate and pander up loser mentality. There you are. That's the source. I'm reading you. The thing is
not the show for you.
By the way, I have to say, the source has got to be the first negative we've had for the Housewives' favourite, because they all like him.
How can you not like Ruffy?
But they don't like me. I mean, I can take
they
that.
don't like me as well, and I like that.
I like that, but you, I mean, how the source can obviously, and Hugh Scott says, Peter, I hate to say it, but Tam McManus could be right. Haaland could score 40 goals this season, and then some.
Good. I mean, I said last season, I'm not trying to steal Tam's thunder, I said, whatever team gets him is guaranteed goals. This guy was scoring 26, this guy scored already 26 Champions League goals. 26 already. I mean, it's
incredible. Just one thing to finish with, Ruffy, and I think it's right to mention this. Xander Murray, who's 30, came out and said he's been overwhelmed by the support and humbled when he came out as gay. He's got kind messages from so many people. He plays for Gallifreydine as a striker and opened up about his sexuality after years of battling against it. Of course, we've known Justin Fashanu, certainly in a reporter sense from myself, and the Blackpool midfielder Jake Daniels has come out in May and said it. I think more and more people are, and I think the most difficult sport to come out and mention that you're gay? Football? Is there any other one that I think has potential for a lot of people who can't act properly and can't accept you for what you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, because that's just the mentality that's out there. We've seen it over the weekend, and I think it would be the same if it was a high-profile player. I mean, I played football for 20 years, and I would hesitate to say there were probably a couple of gay guys I've played with, but the bottom line is, if he came out in any dressing room I've been in, it would not bat an eyelid. He's part of the team, and that's what he would be accepted for, what he's on the park.
I think the younger generation as well, I talk to my son and all that about it, and they just shrug their shoulders. He's gay. I mean, it's not and you talk about football, look at women's football. Women's football is full of openly gay women. And nobody bats an eyelid at it. It's because of the ancient culture of football, which is looked upon as a macho game. But I think the time's moved on now, and I think you'll find, and I hope as well, because it must be terrible living a lie. It must be terrible, repressing all that. So I just hope that slowly but surely, when the people are ready, we don't want to force people into anything at all, that they feel comfortable enough to come out.
My only immediate thought always is, why should anybody get abused for their own sexuality, their religion, their colour? I wasn't brought up that way. I don't understand how people's minds work. The automatic thing I was thinking about was, is he any good?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm sure
you're a striker, can you score goals? Get on with your life.
And I'm sure the players at Gala will think the same.
And if you look at the proportion of gays in the population, and then think about the proportion of footballers who come out and gay, it'd be reasonable to assume there's a huge amount of young men in football at the moment who just haven't declared it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the worrying thing. Listen, thank you to so many of you for commenting. So many great football fans on here who post a lot of decent stuff, and we really admire the fact that you love your club and you post a lot of intelligent stuff on this feed here on our YouTube channel. There are some people that we have to ban, but that's just the nature of life. I'm writing down this programme. It's the first time anybody's had a dig at him. I'm so happy. Anyway, thank you to Ruffy. Thank you to Hugh McDonald. Hit the subscribe button if you can, and join the football family here on our YouTube channel. If you download the app, you can watch it live and you'll get all the breaking football stories. From myself, Peter Martin, to you, thank you for watching.